So we are quickly back with Araceli. You've got more to say, my good friend. So I definitely wanted to make sure that your voice is heard. So please.
Yes, I just had a few more things to say in terms of women in leadership and why I'm so passionate about bringing additional women to the top, so that we can get away from the stigma of competition. Because being truthfully speaking, I was once that woman as well, the woman who saw a woman as competition. First coming out of college, I worked with a Macy's distribution center, and there were only two of us African American women, and we were on the same level, and we were competing for a leadership position, one to go up, and we would consistently bump heads. We were, instead of working collaboratively together, we would work against each other, even though our departments were customers to each other. I mean, it was to the point where we were in a meeting at one point with the VPs, a lot of important individuals at a table, and we were discussing the operations, and she and I got into a heated exchange to where it was no longer professional, to the point where the VP had to table the conversation and let us know that we would come back and meet on a later date. We were so in tune with fighting for ourselves. We were fighting against the operations. This is why I say I know it is a real thing that is out there, because I didn't always have the mindset that I have now. I didn't always see the woman, my peer, as a collaborative person, as a person that we could all do it. I was also the woman. It was a cutthroat industry. It was two of us and there was one spot. Only one of us could make it. And, you unintentionally and sometimes intentionally do things to leave the other person in a bad light. And, fresh out of college, trying to make a name for myself, it was a dog-eat-dog world. And that's what I did to ensure that my name was still up there at the top. It was later on that I had to learn that we shouldn't be each other's competition. And it was later that I learned that this plays against us, because then others would use this to play us against each other. And, it became not the right thing to do. And I was initially one of the people at that table doing those things to others. And then when I saw that the table could flip and now this was being done to me, and it was done to me repeatedly, it kind of sparked to me like, this is not okay. And that's where the stigma of, I don't really want to report to a woman if this is what it's going to be, because she's never going to move out that position. And when she does, I'll never get it because she won't want me to have it. And so you just don't want to be put in that place. And so it was crazy that with you fast forward into my career now, even with having the opportunity to get a new position with a great company, one of my deciding factors of if I wanted to take the job, because I had two opportunities at the time, was, did I want to report to a woman? Yeah. That's crazy, Sai. Yeah. No one, that should not be one of the questions that you're asking yourself when you're taking on a new leadership. Do I want to report to a woman? I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but it was a true thought. Yeah. And I decided, well, let's go for it, even though it's not something I had to do, that I had not previously done. But that is where that background comes from, because I was in that environment. I lived that environment. And I was personally that person that saw another woman as my competition, and I was going to get that next position by any means necessary. It took growth, it took learning, and it took this now mentorship to learn that that's not the way it has to be. And there's going to be room for all of us at the top. I just wanted to personally share that I have lived the life of what we're speaking on, and it's just not a good place to be in.
Definitely. And I think you're calling out also some very particular things. One is we are creatures of habit. And this is extremely key. And I know this relates very deeply to my own consulting and coaching practice. We are creatures of habit. And there is a lot of conditioning, social conditioning, that we have absorbed, quite honestly. And we can talk about it all we want, but talk is cheap, very, very cheap. Yes. The only thing that breaks through our conditioning, our habitualization, is experiences. And experiences, exactly like you said. You had an experience with a leader who happened to be a female, and that changed the conditioning, the habitualization that's occurred, in which case we're more than the products of our experiences if we have those breakthroughs. So right. I think what you're calling out is key, Araceli, all around.
Right, because I don't know if my mindset would be so strong as it is right now and so supportive. I mean, we like to say that women, we should support ourselves, but it wasn't always an act. It's kind of like we need to talk what we preach and actually move forward with it. But I don't know, Sai, if I had not had that woman in leadership to give me such a positive experience,
Yep.
would my mind frame would have changed or not. It may have been a little different.
And very openly, kudos to you and to the individual, because you had the courage, if you will, to take that step into the unknown. And really shatter the conditioning that you had experienced historically. And also kudos to the individual for helping pull you through. And you're both elevated at that point. So it really does take all of us to contribute something and make it real versus just talk it and not walk it.
Right, absolutely, because we don't know the impact. I don't think this leader knew the impact that she would have on my life and the trajectory of where I want to be. I don't think she knew that. I think she was just being a leader in herself. And so what I want to express is that it's so impactful to be that other person. And because now I know, even though I was conditioned to think that way about women in leadership, I know now that that was the wrong thing to do. So when I say pay it forward, is to show other women that that's not how we should be living as well. We have to stop that, because as a whole, companies are not going to be welcome to that. Looking back on that experience, and it's mortifying that a VP stopped the conversation, was like, you guys need to go figure it out. Like, this is not what you're going to do in this workplace. And so talk about unprofessional and, stagnant. I probably wouldn't have gotten an additional leadership position anyway, just based on that experience. And no one wants that person. No one wants to hire that person. So it became okay not to be that person.
And this really all talks to the essential aspects or qualities that we should hire for: confidence, courage to take these elements of risk, if you will, for both self-growth as well as having a positive impact in the world, and really challenge ourselves not to simply do our defaults or default to our habitual behavior, but rather critically think about what we're doing and the impact that we have on others. So all around, Araceli, thank you for sharing it. Anything else, and you're always welcome back at any time, but anything else before we sign off, my friend?
No, just make sure that, when we are being mentored, we're open to the information that your mentor is giving us. I've had so many tough conversations I didn't want to accept about myself. I probably didn't accept in the moment, was probably upset in the moment receiving that information, but I go back and I reflect and I actually initiate change. So I want to say that it's not only important for you to have a mentor, and also a mentor that's not going to give up on you, but you have to play your part as well. And so you have to be able to reflect on who you are and understand why you're being that person. I had to understand why I was the person that I was in order to move forward in a more positive way. So my last tidbit is, it doesn't only take a mentor, you also need to accept the things within you that you need to change to push you to that next level.
Very well said. And definitively, if you're not open for the feedback, quite honestly, don't waste your time, don't waste your mentor or coach's time and energy, because life is short and it's not worth it. And
exactly.
And I have to tell you reminded me actually of a particular quote, and I immediately pulled it up. It's that immediate to me. It's from Tom Landry. And this is, and he used the word coach as he himself was a coach. He said, a coach, or in this case, a mentor, is someone who tells you what you don't want to hear, who has you see what you don't want to see, so you can be who you've always known you could be.
That is 100% it. 100% it, Sai. And I'm going to have to go get that quote and put it somewhere, because that was absolutely it. It brought out the better me of who I wanted to be. I didn't know, and I wasn't mature, and I wasn't groomed enough to understand how to get there and to understand why I was the way my leadership was. But that is so key. I love that. That is exactly what my life was over the past 4 years.
Wonderful. Thank you again so much, Araceli. And we definitely look forward to our next conversation. And by all means, look forward to yourself and others joining us on the upcoming event.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.